Hi, my name is Brock Loyson. Today I'm going to be explaining some of the differences between locomotor and non-locomotor movements. So I'll be demonstrating some movements and just explaining some differences between different movements that fall into each of the categories. So a locomotor movement, this is to move the body from one place to another or to project the body upward. So there's movement across a certain space. Whereas non-locomotor is performed without appreciable movement from place to place. So it's moving the body but keeping your feet planted on the ground in much more still movement. It's super important for students to learn these fundamental motor skills early on, locomotor and non-locomotor. We found that when we build these skills up early, they have a much more positive outlook on life. They're active through their, the rest of their adult life. When you don't learn them, there's a life of inactivity. You won't know how to function in the environment. So just knowing how the body works, how you move, how you stay active is so important for students to learn at an early age in order to carry it on with them through their life. All right, so I'm going to explain and demonstrate some of the different movements that fall into the categories of locomotor and non-locomotor. I'll begin with locomotor. The first movement I'm going to demonstrate is jumping. So there's 5 different steps within the movement of jumping that help students understand and grasp this movement. So the first thing we want to do is to gain that height in our jump, we want to swing our arms forward as fast as we can. The next thing we want to do is bend our knees. So bend the knees, and then we're also going to swing the arms forward as fast as we can. We want to get up on our toes, jump as high as we can, reach up to the sky, and also land with bent knees when we're done. So with those 5 things in mind, I'm going to try it out. So swinging the arms, bend the knees, leap as high as I can, get up on my toes, and then land softly with bent knees to finish. So here we go. That's your jump. All right, so the next one we're going to do is skip. So this is a locomotor movement as well. There's 4 movements or 4 things that we want to focus on when we're doing the skip. The first one we're going to do is step and hop. So you're going to step forward and hop. The next thing we want to do is use our arms for momentum to swing back and forth as we're going through the skip. We also want to try to focus on making it as smooth as possible, so skip smoothly, as well as be on our toes as we're going through it. So with those 4 things in mind, I'll try it out, the skip. All right, and the last locomotor movement that we're going to do is leaping. So there's 3 things we want to focus on doing the leap. The first thing we want to do is push off and reach, and that means reach out with that leading foot. The second thing we want to do is jump up and over and land softly on the other side of whatever we're leaping over. And the third thing we're going to do is use your arms for that momentum in order to get you as high and far as possible. So I'll demonstrate the leap, focusing on jumping up and over whatever it is I'm jumping over, as well as using my arms, and finally pushing off and using that forward foot to reach out as far as I can. So here we go. All right, so now we're getting into those non-locomotor movements. So a little less going on, but same concept with different things to think about here. So there's 4 things to think about with the movement of swinging. So this is a pretty just broad example of swinging your arms back and forth. So we want to focus on staying really loose as we swing our arms back and forth, as well as getting full range of motion, swinging fully and making a complete movement, as well as swinging in a rhythmic pattern or just staying in a consistent motion as you're going through it. So swinging back and forth, your arms staying nice and loose, going in a full range of motion, as well as swinging in a rhythmic pattern and making a complete motion with your arms, back and forth, swinging. All right, so the next non-locomotor movement we're going to talk about is bending. So this one's pretty simple. There's only 2 things that we need to go over for the movement of bending. The first one is simply bend as far as possible. So you want to really, test the limits, get down as far as you can whatever you're bending, as well as keeping everything else still while moving that one joint. So I'm going to bend over, bending at my hips. So what I'm going to do is try to keep my knees locked out, everything else still, while I'm bending down at the hips to see if I can touch the ground as far as possible, and then back up. And that's bending. All right, and this last one is similar to bending, a little bit differently, and this is twisting. So twisting has three things we want to focus on. The first one is twist as far as possible. So we'll twist our hips back and forth. We also want to twist the other way, so twisting both ways, back and forth, and then finishing by holding the supporting joints and body parts while we're doing this movement. So we really just want to focus on twisting at our hips, see if we can keep our knees locked and our ankles, everything else tight as we're going through the twisting motion. So back and forth at the trunk, getting as far as I can each way, trying our best to keep the lower body nice and still as we're twisting at the hips.